why do you think so much alpha male content, quote unquote alpha male content, the red pillars, if you will, why do you think so much of the content about building up men also spends maybe most of its time trashing women? There's some connection to, I think, the toxic masculinity doesn't exist conversation.
Yeah, it's tough, dude. I really don't know. I feel like some of it is just the fact that the content creators are the ones that get the majority of the attention, and they know that the stuff that's most likely to get the most views is the stuff that's most controversial. Yeah. So like the obvious example is Andrew Tate, because when I look at his stuff, 80 to 90% of what he says, I tend to agree with.
I would say, if you're going to say to a 20-year-old who's truly exceptional and driven, I'd say you need to become a master communicator, because once you can do that, you can do anything.
But the 10 to 20% fringe stuff that he says is like,
yeah.
Whoa, yeah. I fully disagree with that as a man with a daughter. Like, it gives you a whole new, fresh perspective.
If you confuse them on taxes, you can get more money out of the cam girl that you're pimping out.
Is that
have you seen that clip?
Said? No.
There's like this whole thing. He's like, because girls are so stupid that you could just tell them, just sign this form, just do this thing, and you could be skimming like an extra like 10% off their income as a creator.
Tax is also another important element for controlling your woman. You're not going to pay anybody tax because you're getting paid in Bitcoin. So you don't need to pay tax to anybody. But you need to tell your girl that you're paying the tax. Because girls are lazy, and girls are stupid, and girls don't understand how taxes work. So the girl's working with you, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we've made this much money, but I'm going to pay the tax to make sure we don't get in trouble. She'll sit there and go, okay. Now that allows you to do two things. One, it's another control element. If I work with him, my tax is not a problem. If I do it alone, I have to deal with taxes. Taxes are complicated. So control element. Secondly, it allows you to pay her a smaller percentage. So I used to pay my girls 30%. So for every $10,000 they made, I'd give them 3, and I'd keep 7. They thought they were on 50%. And I said that the disparity is because of taxes.
Yeah, see, that's the kind of stuff, obviously, I fully disagree
Small
with.
Issue.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably what it is like when a model works, people follow the model, even if the model is intrinsically something that shouldn't be followed. Yeah. Just because it's just not does it work? Yeah, but is it right? Maybe not. You know what I mean? So I think the kind of what we talked about earlier in this episode, the worst advertisement for alpha males is alpha males, because they have to constantly be pushing this narrative that they're alpha. And to me, the whole concept is kind of fucked, because if you're truly alpha, you don't have to keep trying to convince everybody that you're alpha. No. You don't have to do this stuff where you're like staring down women and like puffing your chest out like you're a fucking gorilla. You know what I mean? Like, why do you feel like you have to do that? Like, you're really trying to prove to that woman that you can overpower her. Like, she knows that, bro. Wait, what are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to be? If you actually have to consistently try to prove those things to other people, it shows me that you're not really an alpha. Because if you were, you wouldn't care. Like, the core of that to me is having security in yourself and who you are. And that to me is opposed to what a lot of those people push, which is why, if a woman, if the man has this massive body count and they've had sex with like 230 women, they're all proud of it. And then they meet a girl who's had sex with 50 men and they're like, you're a whore. And it's like, whoa, like these are wildly different standards. And like, I understand there's some sort of discrepancy between those two things, because it's, I think, culturally and biologically wired in us, because literally women used to be owned by men. Yeah. Basically, like if you were the husband and you had a wife and it was, the year 890, she was your property for all intents and purposes. So there's always been this cultural stigma around like the man can go off to war and have sex with all these girls, but if he comes home and finds that his wife was sleeping with the blacksmith, then like he's going to make an example of her or whatever, because how dare you? That's my property. Right. But it's like, have we not gotten to a place culturally where we can agree that women shouldn't be property? Yeah. Like, is that not something that we can agree on? You know what I mean? So, and if you're
apparently not,
apparently not, because if you're constantly pushing this narrative that like, that's my woman and I can do whatever I want. Then like, again, that to me proves to me that you have
insecurity.
There's a massive insecurity.
Have you had a serious relationship?
I have many concurrent serious relationships as we speak.
Are you poly?
No, because that means they can talk to other dudes. That's fucking haram. That's atrocious. That's disgusting.
You are showing your insecurity through your, this shield of saying that, like, well, this is my woman. Like, I'm planting this flag, and how dare you? You should be chaste to some degree, and I can do whatever I want.
It's crazy because like there's whole podcasts, like, and people have seen clips like on TikTok, but you see whole podcasts where it's like the podcast is either the male host talking about like, oh, this is all the people I've slept with, and this is these crazy stories, and like, oh my God, high five, And then those same podcasts will have like an OnlyFans creator on and be like, aren't you ashamed?
Yeah.
Like, it's like the guys that like watch porn and then they're like, porn stores are disgusting. Yeah. It's like, dude, you can't consume the product and then criticize the person making it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to one way or the other, like Andrew Tate, like it's a perfect example, like says all this stuff and then is like, talks about hooking up with all these different women and is also a devout Muslim. Like, it's very confusing, like all these different.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to what you think an alpha male really is. Because that's my thing. Is I feel like I identify a lot with being an alpha in terms of I've always been extremely competitive. I like to work out, stay fit. I like to play pickup basketball. I want to golf. But I like that stuff. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of value in being a man and pushing yourself to become the best version of the man that you can be. No. But you do not, and I think is diametrically opposed to being a real man and being an alpha male. You cannot just demean women because you are an alpha. Like the whole concept.
Devaluing them doesn't increase your value at all. Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't make you more of an alpha. To me, like, again, that's to me, it makes you less of an alpha, in my opinion. Like, you might be able, you might have big muscles and you might be able to fight or whatever. But like, if you're just a dick and you're an asshole and you're treating women poorly, like anybody to me that treats somebody weaker than them poorly just because they're weaker than them is the opposite of an alpha. Yeah. It's a mentality. It's not a physical form, even though some of it is displayed through physicality, which I agree with, right? Like, you're not going to see an alpha male who's 150 pounds overweight. It's not like, that's not the same type of person, but it doesn't mean that you also have to be a douchebag.